What is entrepreneurship and leadership? Those are the things that not a lot of people are able to define. Some believe that they know what they are, only to find out that they don't really know what they actually are. And on today's amazing episode, we are going to look at entrepreneurship and leadership. As always, I'm your host, Nibo Chivase, and welcome to another amazing episode of Complacency Learning. On this amazing episode of Complacency Learning, we are joined by a very interesting individual whose passion lies more in entrepreneurship and leadership. But before I tell you his name, let us have a look at some of his career highlights. He is the 2022 Man of the Year in Entrepreneurship and Leadership, 2020 Top Mentor for Africa Seed Stars, Executive and Entrepreneur in Residence, Advisory Board Member, Public Speaker, Coach, and Mentor, and he goes by the name of Mogen Naidoo. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy, and remember to grab some popcorns. Hi, Morgan. They say every day that you spend above the ground is a blessing. And I see you're spending it above the ground, which means that you are blessed. How are you doing on this beautiful day?
Yeah, good. Sun's out in Johannesburg, so it's warming up a bit. Yeah, it's can't complain. Doing well. Yeah.
Yeah. This weather is confusing. Hey, next thing is cold, next thing is hot. You don't even know how to dress up when you go out, you know?
True story. And we mentioned this before. My house is actually quite cold, but outside it's actually warmer. So trying to get the heat in and save on electricity as well. So I don't use too much of the heaters, and still blessed. I mean, can't wish for anything more than it is right now. But yeah, it's going good.
I see, appreciating life at the fullest. You know, that is awesome to hear. So now, Morgan, can I ask you to please tell us a bit about yourself and what you do?
Okay, so I would like to call myself an entrepreneur. Mogen Naidoo, and I like to that's one of my brands that I've tried to put out there in the market as an entrepreneur and leader. And I've been in corporate for let me start at my university days. So very computer. I love computers. When I started, I think don't want to give away my age, but the first computer was the Commodore 64, and I started basic. There used to be this coding language, BASIC. So I used to write small, very easy programs on BASIC and learn from there and build my way up. And then ventured into the PC days and client server, and now we're onto cloud computing and all that jazz. But during my steps, I knew I was passionate about computers and computer science. So I did start in computer science at UCT. But during that time, in my first year, I'm more business. I like the more business organizational structures, in terms of how computers ran for business. So because as I saw my future at that time, I didn't want to be the guy sitting behind a PC and coding. I'm more the extrovert. I love the talk. I love to solve problems. I like to meet people and solving business problems. So I switched more to information systems, which looked at how computers work from an organizational perspective and how it solves world problems, right? So until then, I did my master's. So I was a lecturer at a college in London. I spent some time in London, and so I lectured computer science and technology. Came back. I did my master's at UCT. So they I had a grant from NRF to do it, and that was when they mentioned that I needed to do a 2 years, spend 2 years working for a South African company after I finished. Completed my master's. My first journey into corporate was with KPMG, and spent 3 years there. It was very good. I did a lot of auditing and advisory work. I love the advisory work a little more, so consulting and such. Transitioned to Frost & Sullivan, where I did a lot of more research and consulting. And I did IDC actually headhunted me, and that was when I was living in Cape Town. And that was my first step to Johannesburg. And they literally doubled my salary, so I wouldn't say no. Spent a few years in IDC, and then I met a friend who had this. So I did a lot of security work in IT, and a lot of strategy and such. But I met a friend who was more on the technical side in security, right? So we blended the two together, and we formed a company called Kinner Group. And from that company, Kinner Group, we did a lot of strategy and advisory, and we had a lot of work. So I left corporate then, and then I fully went into the business. And as we get into discussions later, I did have a lot of learnings from that transition, where I shouldn't have left corporate from a financial perspective, and go solely, because I thought all the projects coming in, that will be suffice. But after a few years, all the contracts pulled out, and being a young entrepreneur, not fully being adaptable and mature enough to understand how the process of cash flow works and such, we got into where I had to draw all my savings and meet my daily needs to. So it was about 2 years into to that, and so financially we weren't making it as a business, and then I went back into corporate, and my next job was F&B, where I was operational risk manager for the digital banking strategy at F&B. It was very cool position. Learned a lot, dealt with many teams in there, and I played with all the cool gadgets, like the watch app that came out. So basically, before any of the apps or anything that rolled out into the public, or clients or customers could use, I had to do the risk behind it and see that it is, if it's compliant and such. So learned a lot, and I felt that it was quite necessary to be back into corporate, because I understood the processes and how that worked. And during that time, there was another project that came up, and it was with Telkom, and we applied for that tender, and we won that tender. And I formed another company called 360 Networks. So on that, and it went well. So the first year was very, because at the time I didn't think Telkom had the right to establish what they needed to, but eventually we found our way and designed the processes and such, and that's how it worked. So that was the second company. Still had Kinner Group going on, and I eventually I left because I had the two businesses going. It was being crazy at the time. Yeah, and then I left F&B. I've focused my time fully on the two businesses, and then it started growing really well. I've met also another from my Africa advisory. During my time at corporate with IDC, I really traveled extensively in Africa. So I knew, dealing with problems and such, and also Middle East and Africa and Turkey. I was the software lead for that. So I built that experience, and that dealing, and I loved it, because I used to fly to 9 countries, basically 9 countries a year. I'm not sure if this was actually legal at the time. Yeah,
that's a lot.
But I had,
yeah.
So I had 2 passports. One way I was actually used to travel and get the business visa to go to one country, and then our EA, our executive assistant, would be applying for another visa. So when I land back, I'm flying into the next country for business. But that really taught me a lot, and I built my portfolio and clients and such, and solving business problems. So I've met another lady who and we formed from a Kobo marketing, but we really got together, and it was more Africa advisory and how we take that. So now I'm sitting with 3 businesses, and during so COVID really, it was up and down. The first 6 months in lockdown in COVID was really bad, but one thing that really helped me, and I think as we discuss more around entrepreneurship, it's sometimes there's this big luck, and opportunity that comes in. COVID was and I would say for myself, was a lot of luck and opportunity, because during lockdown, we were essential workers. We became essential workers because the country needed internet and they needed access to PCs. So I was in the right time and the right place. And so we became essential workers. During that time, a lot of businesses really closed down. So we started putting fiber into, or internet into, the customers' premises, and helping them sort their home office out to link in. While from the business side, it wasn't quite big, but we did a lot of sales on the residential side. So that really kept our margins quite comfortable. And then for my karate dojo during that time, and I think this was also from like a mindset and health wise, I think it was really, we needed it. We obviously followed the requirements for COVID, where you wear your mask during training and you have that 2-meter distance for training and such. But it helped me because a lot of people actually got didn't do a lot of training and physical aspects to that, right? So what we did was that training helped me mentally and physically during COVID. And then long story short, a lot of in June 2020, Alan Gray, I started my MBA. I did my MBA, and I felt that what I needed was lacking, was from an executive perspective. I wanted to be a multinational leader, and also from a social impact. How do I grow? So from a social impact perspective. And so I completed my MBA with GIBS, Gordon Institute of Business Science. So now I have a double master's, bit of a nerd, but it really helped me as well. And also the benefit of the master's doing the MBA at GIBS was it secured me as an independent contractor with Alan Gray Orbis Foundation. And that was my passion. So my passion is to help other businesses, help to take them from startup to scale. And then I was involved a lot with United Nations. I did some work for them and their prime for the educational sector as well. And just built from there. And still running the dojo, doing quite well. And now one of the biggest engagements, I'm hosting the SA Nationals for Kyokushin Karate. That's quite a big thing.
Nice.
So I think that's my journey, and I think I'll leave it there, and we can go into a little bit more detail in different aspects from the leadership. And during Kinner Group was one of the when we talk about resiliency and how we build that resiliency and becoming a leader, and what in the last 6 years what I've done to change myself from being a manager in corporate and having those attributes, to changing to servant leadership, to changing to be a leader, where now my employees in my companies are looking forward to working and establishing, and how we actually grow the companies.
So looking at IT now, I mean, it's a big thing going on, right? And I know when you were like, okay, you were in IT before and then you moved to this, right? And you seem to have a lot going on and you seem to be achieving more, So going from your journey back in IT to now, would you say that you are happy that you made that move? I mean, it's not a lot of people that are courageous enough to make that move, Some they make that move and then they go back, because I mean, entrepreneurship, if we have to be honest, if you look at it from the beginning, you have these wonderful ideas, you see everything growing. But when you look at the practical part of it, you see that it's going to put you down and down and down a couple of times, But that doesn't mean that you can't get up and walk, right? So now, would you say that you are happy that you made that move?
Yes, really, really happy. And I think the transition to ICT and IT, the world is technology. I mean, look at how everything is working right now. We have robots, we have artificial intelligence that's taking over, and I'm behind crux in that field. So this is what we do from a strategy perspective, how the world is changing and how technology works. And if you look at the the top major companies in the world, they are all IT related, you know. And I'm not saying that it's you should only focus into going into the IT segment, but what I'm saying, the skills that you need to have is to have that background in ICT. And then going back to, you know, Kinder Group, where I was using my savings, and I actually hit a financial rock bottom at one stage. It was because at that point, I was 2 years sitting without a job, right? Even though I had my master's qualification, and it was entrepreneurship that made me adapt, made me to say that, okay, I'm sitting without a job. What do I do now? You know, 2 years, I'm applying to 1,000 companies, and I'm going for interviews. I'm not successfully making it into the next interview. And not to say that I'm, you know, not skilled or able to do the particular position, but you have to come to the reality where you understand that sometimes some other candidate who is competing for the same job may have the certifications or the qualifications or just a little bit more experience that you might not. So don't be despondent when you actually don't get a job in the industry. But that was one of the reasons why I transitioned into entrepreneurship. When I look back, I was always a business. My father started a business. He was a contractor. So, you know, a building contractor. He had that business you know, background. So for me, I always had that. In university, I used to sell PCs for students, to students. You know, so I was a supplier. I built PCs for students to use for their academics, or if it was gaming PCs, you know, I'll build that. I had a web while I was a student at UCT, I had a web design company where I would develop websites also. So it all transition, you know, that background, and I couldn't be locked into a corporate job, you know, 9 to 5. I was that guy that always, you know, the time needs to work around me, and I need to go out and speak to people, and you know, I was that extrovert type of person. So and I think when we look at the world, how it's changing right now, all the businesses that I created was through passion, was through understanding a why, right? I went through a phase where I didn't know what my purpose was. So I was actually doing what I needed to do, right? But eventually I went with the flow, and I said, what am I passionate about? And what do I need? How do any of my businesses tend to help other people, you know? So I loved ICT, anything to do with technology, and I loved you know, bettering people, whether it was through physical activity or mental, and talking around helping them solve their business problems or their personal problems. And then I combined that, you know. And one question I must say, that when one of the I went for a job interview, and the guy says, "Don't you think you're doing too many things?" And then I said, "Well, no, and where the situation that I am in now, I'm actually quite, my skill set is so evolved for the market today, because I have various skills. I'm versatile. I can actually now sit down and design a flyer, or design, or using Photoshop, self-taught, you know. So basically, I can do a lot. I have a lot of skills from technology perspective, whether it's business. And I think it's quite relevant for the industry today. So the technology, which is the skills that I have, that transition that I made, and reason why it's I have the technical aspects, right? And during my time from the transition of establishing my first business and failing and understanding why I failed, was because now I needed to have the creativity aspect, the adaptability and building and resilience. I needed to go through that phase where I lost money, where in the business, where I lost, hit financial rock bottom, where Standard Bank was calling me for 3 months. I was 3 months in arrears with my bond. So I needed to have that, because I needed to understand that certain process, build that resiliency, how to adapt during those problems, right? One thing I must add, I tried to look for a mentor at the time. Unsuccessful in getting the right mentor, or people didn't actually come back to me in terms of that. if one thing I could advise is, if the youngsters or entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs coming in, is to have the support system and have that, that mentorship that they can actually go and leverage. And if we look at the future now, especially with AI, and everyone's fearing that AI is taking redundant roles, that actually is a good thing, because it's going to, you have the technical skills from IT like me, and I have the creativity, I know how to be adaptable, I'm flexible. So we work on the empathy side of that. And that's actually it's humanizing us. The robots are doing all our mundane tasks, like the regular tasks on and on. And it's humanizing us to use our brains now, to say, how creative are we? How innovative are we? And that's how we step and move forward. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. So, well, the fact that you stayed, regardless of everything that you went through, it really says a lot about you, because they say, first of all, being in an uncomfortable situation. Oh, I'm sorry, I closed the video by mistake there. All right, so as I was saying, for you to go through that, and regardless of what you came through, I mean, you still kept on going. It says a lot about you, because I mean, at the end of the day, they say that you cannot grow in a comfortable position. You being in an uncomfortable space, it kind of like also, made you think just further outside the box. Right. So
Absolutely.
yes, so and as we know that entrepreneurship is not for everyone, and leadership as well, right? So looking at leadership and entrepreneurship, what do you think are the key traits that define a good leader or a good entrepreneur?
Yes. Okay. So look, entrepreneurship and leadership. It's a lot of people say that you can have you're not born with it. You actually have to. It's something that's taught, that you need to go out there and learn. So when I started my businesses, literally, I actually admit right now that I've learned more in 5 years of starting my businesses than I've done in 13 years in corporate, right? Because corporate, they're solely fixed on one skill. And I was on YouTube videos, using any resources and learning and such, right? So really, it's all about being an entrepreneur, right? It's all about getting yourself out there. So the key trait is you must be wanting to learn. You must be wanting to learn. But the first thing is that you need to be passionate about something. Have that passion and wanting to learn new things. And also a lot of the learnings come in where you understand processes and how things work, that you can actually have that ability to solve business problems, or solve the world problems, if I could say, right? And I must say that, I've seen a lot of young entrepreneurs at Alan Gray at Orbis Foundation as well. And it just amazes me, the ideas that they come out with to solve Africa's problems, from water sanitation to poverty to, how they're trying to benefit. It's just amazes me. So it's being innovative, from that perspective, but also it lends itself to wanting to learn, having that passion, and also going with the flow. For me, and I'm talking as an entrepreneur, and I don't want to regurgitate things that people already say. So I'm going to talk from my perspective, is that me as an entrepreneur is that I learn, so taking that learning, and also when I'm passionate about something, I go out and do it. I was passionate about ICT. I started an IT business. I was passionate about telecoms, and a gig came up, an opportunity. I actually went and out and did it. I didn't sit back and say, okay, maybe is this something that I could do or not, I was passionate about personal training, teaching, fitness, I'm really into that, and martial arts. So whatever I was passionate about, I actually went with the flow, and I started it, and I started doing it. And so one thing also is that keep pushing as an entrepreneur. Keep pushing, and do what you can until if it's something that you you can take from analysis and risk and perspective and say, okay, this idea is not going to work out and it's costing me money. You know, you can't leave in that perspective. But from a entrepreneur perspective is, and I'm going to use an example. One of my sponsors at a program that I was doing was that I went and I spoke to him and I said, I complained. I was like, this is not working. I can't do this anymore. And he's like, again, just take a step back and realize why you're doing what you're doing. Why are you passionate about this? And focus and give it a little bit more time. Things will work out, you know. And had I not listened to him, I wouldn't have the businesses that I'm running right now that has stability. Because that one moment that I've kept continued and pushed through, that luck came, an opportunity for the COVID to become an essential worker came in. No, so imagine if I pulled out before that opportunity. And also entrepreneurs having that network ability. You need to go out and network. You need to go out and talk to people, create a support structure. The more people you talk to and have chats with and talk in the industry, the more opportunity there is there. And I'll give you a perfect example on that is that I used to attend a lot of industry conferences and talks, and I built relationships, and I've built relationships with my fellow peers and colleagues, and I still keep that interactions going. And so one day, like someone needed a particular project to be done, and they actually said, "Hey, wait a minute, you know, I know Mogen Naidoo. He owns this company in IT. He can actually do that project." And they contacted me. So, and it was projects based in Namibia and Botswana that I ran. So it's things like that. And from a leadership perspective, it's can I give my personal journey on that leadership? So
yes, please. I was even going to ask you that. So now that you're on it, I think it's best that you share, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, and also like the fact that your name was mentioned in a room that mattered. Eh? So that again, exactly. It's something great, you know. Yes. Yeah.
And also went, another example, I went to one of our biggest clients in telecoms, and I went for a meeting in there. And as I walked in, and they said, okay, who's this? This is Mogen Naidoo. It was with a table of senior managers and executives. And then the one exec mentioned, oh, the infamous Mogen Naidoo. So they knew about me. They knew about my name. So it's about getting out there, you know, and creating that. Because if you're sitting on your chair and you not doing much and socializing or making those contacts, people are not going to know what you do or who you are, you know. So at least the first person that came up to mind when they needed a particular project was Mogen Naidoo, and that's when I got that. From a leadership perspective, I was very manager, focused. And the difference between a manager and leader, they always, you know, give those differences about how a manager is and how a leader should be and such. But for me, I was really a manager. I thought I knew everything. You know, I had my master's degrees. I was like, oh, okay, I'm better than I know the most, you know. And that was a very wrong approach. That was very detailed and customer driven, that I didn't care about any other inputs from my teams, you know, that reported to me. And so some of them actually withdrew, and I was very arrogant at the time, you know. And then the last 6 years, I think it's just slightly over 6 years, I went through some personal issues that I needed to work on myself, you know, from a recovery perspective. And one of the most, so I joined a 12-step program in terms of helping myself, you know, pass this. It was also, if it can be, you know, straightforward, it was alcohol. I had a problem with alcohol because a lot of the problems that happened, you know, what do you do now? So I didn't have the tools and that right mindset. But that's another story, you know, from my youth that it built up to when I was about 33 years old. And then my father passed away when I was 12. So I couldn't
78
understand how to deal with that as I grew as an adult. So I had to focus on myself and fix myself, you know? So from that perspective, when I started fixing myself, I actually went to India. I did a pilgrimage in India. I shaved my head and everything, and it was one of the best life-changing experiences I could do. We used to go for lectures. I've meditated in the mountains. I've meditated in by the sea, and went to all the various temples and such. And what I saw was just humility. There was so much humility in that. It gave me a really new perspective in life, in how I firstly treat people and how I treated myself. So as a leader, when I came back and transitioned into that space, I moved more into servant leadership. And I felt servant leadership incorporated the spiritual aspect of being a leader, of being a human. Because first, you need to be a human to understand empathy and how you deal with other people. And then the second aspect was from empathy, servant leadership is that how do you hold the next person's hand, or put people in your team and help them and guide them, So it's not just telling them, okay, you do this. I want to see it 100% detailed, like what a manager would do, So that was my last 6 years ago, the transition from a manager to leader. And I brought a lot of the spiritual aspects, the leadership component in terms of being a servant leader. Like I would allow people to come into the meeting. I wouldn't shake their hands. I'll give them a hug, like, hey, how's it going? Make them feel more welcome and have that empathy and human side, and allow my team to speak, to have more tell me what is going on. Because at the end of the day, I'll tell you how that changed in one of my businesses as an entrepreneur, is that the more I learned about my employees, and the more I actually went and worked with them on the field, the more I understood what the problems were, what the customers faced. And the more I allowed my employees to voice their experience and what problems they have, we could solve problems immediately. And that's how we became more innovative. Yes.
So in other ways, you were encouraging them to be innovative and adaptable.
Yes, innovative and adaptable. And by doing that, I was becoming innovative and adaptable. You know what I mean? So, and that sort of culture transitioned to and now my employees, they don't have to be scared of me as a manager and saying, okay, they WhatsApp me. Even on a Sunday, they can WhatsApp me, and I'll entertain that call and say, hey, okay, so how do I help you to transition? And I give them the opportunity to become leaders themselves, taking that culture and transitioning it into the next, So I think servant leadership, for me, in my personal capacity, there's a lot of other leadership styles that you could take in, and all this here is building yourself, fixing yourself as a leader. And if you look at Steve Jobs, if you look at all the different leaderships that they actually had to transition. Steve Jobs went to India as well,
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Steve
So
Jobs
tell
went to
me,
India.
sorry, if I may interrupt, so when you say go to India, which part of it is it like part of India where people go to gain some sort of restoration or so?
Yes. So it depends. India is so there's lots of ashrams and the temples there. There's lots of organizations where they focus solely on spirituality and studying the scriptures. And so I don't do it from a religious perspective. I do it in a very spiritual perspective, right? So and it's basically how to behave. The scriptures tell us is how do you, as a human being, what do you need to do? Give yourself. We basically need to do God's work in helping the next human being. So for me, it was be good, do good, and help others, and service to other people. Whether the employees are working for you, right? You and Steve Jobs said it really well, is that you employ people to tell you what to do, not for you to tell them what to do, because they're the ones that have the skills that you're employing them to tell them. So that's how all the learnings that really transitioned in my last 6 to 8 years, yeah. I think.
Oh, nice, nice. So in terms of leadership, right? I often hear people talking about leadership styles, right? That for you to be a leader, there's certain style, certain qualities that you need to have to impose a different leadership style, right? So
Yes.
what the styles that you have adapted, and to what extent did they help you?
Okay, so for my in terms of wanting a very high-performing team, my leadership style is more from a collaboration perspective, right? So I don't believe in competition anymore, especially from a business side, right? I believe in collaboration. The world there's so little resources in the world now. I mean, why do we have to compete to get it? And then one person who's out, why can't we just do it for the whole global good, right? So the collaboration component for me is that collaborate with people, collaborate with businesses, you know, and give it back to the community. And this is where the shared value comes in. So I take that collaboration and from a leadership style and bring it into my business, is that how do we collaborate as teams, you know? I don't like to make one employee to be competitive over the next, but I like them to be working together. And that helps from a servant leadership perspective, is that when I join my teams, from a leadership style, is that I like them to be working together. We do team building exercises. We can also, we also end of year functions, you know, I try to make it very different where if we had out having maybe say we do a braai or something as a it's in such a way that we don't be exclusive, you know, like individuals sitting at one another. So I think I prioritize a lot on personal development, but during that personal development, also how do you assist and become leaders yourself? Because you need to understand, if I'm helping the next person, and you yourself as a teacher, you know that when I teach, I actually teaching myself as well, and I'm knowing about the topic much better. You know, so when I help, when I get my team to have personal development, I allow them to collaborate and have that team helping the next person, mentor the next person, coach the next person, because by teaching the next person also, they bettering themselves in that specific skill that they're actually teaching. And the servant leadership style also collaborates around that. And by just having that hugs and, allowing them to go to chat in meetings and such, we just, seen a lot of results grow from that. So that's my type of leadership. And look, I mean, when you're working in a very big corporate environment, you have to be adaptable from a leadership perspective. Is that because from a management perspective, your leadership style need to filter onto different personalities, how different people work, but also keeping the communication space open and from a collaboration perspective.
Mm-hmm. No, that's nice. So I see, they say that what you call this, employees, they perform better when you do notice their hard work, just like when the boss praises you, you tend to feel like, oh wow, I'm doing a great job, let me continue to do it, because I mean, yeah. So in terms of that, right, you did say that you do involve your team in everything, right? The decision making, like more like a collaboration, right? So in terms of that, right, obviously at the end of the day, they have to come and report to you. Right, you have to be the one to make the decisions. And you know that, when you make the decisions, it's not easy, because I mean, some decisions can take you there instead of taking you there where you want to go, right? So in terms of balancing risk and decision making, how did you do it?
Right. So I'm also being an analyst from my previous jobs as a analytical and being a risk manager. I always factor data analysis. I work very well with information. I need to have information, and also that information translates to scenarios where I adapt it from a risk perspective and make the decisions on that. But also some decisions that I do make need to be intuitive, right? And the reason for that is because the world is changing so fast, right? And you need to be adaptable in the space. Sometimes that analysis, yes, it has a time and space, you know, where you need to get that information and make key decisions based on information and facts that you get for your business. But some decisions need to be made very quick and from an intuitive perspective. And I also believe in what, Amazon, Jeff Bezos, he mentioned, he's also a very intuitive leader, right? He fails fast, he says fails fast and move on. And I love to take that adaptability because one, I've built myself in terms of resiliency. I understand what failure is. Failure is not, yes, you failed in the business. Failure is learning. You fail fast, you learn from what that decision, the particular decision you made, and move on. So by allowing that as a leader, allowing the opportunity for your employees to fail and yourself to fail, but have that intuition to say, yes, we fail, but what's the next steps? You know, so fail fast and move forward fast. You know, and make the decision. And then I also fall back on when we do fail, I fall back on my data analysis and the risks, you know, and the risk mitigation plans that are put in place, because I know from there that data and market research and using factual information can also help you in solving a business problem. So my priority would be make the intuition, fail fast, move forward, and then, you know, have a backing of your data analysis and risk management, the plans that you put in place.
Yeah. You know, your perspective on failure is very positive, eh? I must say, it's not a lot of people that look at failure the way that you do, you know, because to some people, failure comes like, okay, I tried, that's it, let's move on, you know, but you look at it in a way that, hey, okay, now I failed, what do we do next? So it's more like you learn and you keep on learning. And so they do say that, you know, you have to keep on learning, and which is why? Because the world keeps on changing, like you mentioned it before, right? So to those that are, you know, the aspiring entrepreneurs and the leaders, right? I know that they're probably thinking that this journey is gonna be easy, right? Because of all those images that they've already created in their mind when they came up with the idea, right? So what is the advice that you can give them? Like, I mean, because I mean, it's gonna get tough for them, but how do they stay back on track, you know? How do they channel from seeing failure as something to say, you know what, I tried, that's it, to something to say, to something that you can use to fuel your growth?
Yeah. Okay, so it's always a tough one to answer this question, but it's a very relevant question, because at the end of the day is that you need to understand and going back to intuition, right? To say, okay, I'm trying, let me do this. If it fails the first time, there's numerous ways to solve a specific problem. If it doesn't work the first time, move on to the next solution. There has to be a solution to that particular problem. So I always, so from a failure perspective is that, and I'm going to use an example when I was in that personal issues that I had, that space, personal space, I actually went to treatment, to a treatment center, and they took, so it was for 3 weeks, and they took away my cell phone, to say I cannot use my cell phone for the 3 weeks that I'm there. The only thing I could do was make a phone call to my family members using the phone at the, and what I realized at that point is that, and I was stressing, oh, what do I do about businesses? Okay, I need to do this. So when they took the first 2 days, I was a little edgy, and then you realize that my businesses still carried on. That I had my managers there, like I had my family there to support me and help me move the businesses and keep it going, is that the world still carries on, so life on life terms. So whether something happens, the world will still carry on, sometimes you will fail, right? But that's failure is for you to take that lesson from that learning, and then so what? So you need to think, so what? Because is this impacting someone so drastically that the world has to stand still for this particular problem? So that's my mentality that I take, is that my phone was taken away from me, but hey, the world still carries on. Life still goes on. And so don't be too hard on yourself, because when you fail in that moment, there's always a solution. Take the time, step back, reflect, right? Reflect on what has happened, what have you learned from that particular engagement, and then move forward. I had a lot of people that are mentored and coached that will say, hey, this is actually not working. I think I need to take a step back in this, and I need to go back into the working world. And then I told them, are you 100% sure? And then I leveraged back into, are you 100% sure that this failed? Or is it that you're just you need to look at it from a different point of view and look at it from, is there another solution to this problem, right? And then go back, do the data analysis, do the risk management, get that information, get that facts, combine that together, right? And then make that informed decision. And from that, one of my mentees is actually doing phenomenally well from just taking that advice and pushing forward and being passionate. So when you look at failure, it's a learning. Failure is learning. You have to learn. It's not really the end. It's not the end of the world. The world still carries on life terms, but it's what do you take that lesson learned from there, and how do you use it? So my motto is inspire with success, right? And guide my failures, right?
Oh, nice.
So when I post on social media, I post you have to show success because it motivates you. It gives you that say, hey, I'm doing well. You want to celebrate it. Post it on social media. Post it and celebrate with people. Celebrate the small wins. Celebrate the big wins. But also guide with your failures. I also on my social media, I post my failures. I say, hey, this didn't work out, but what did I learn from that? And I teach them. So I teach the guys. So the whole thing behind the failures is that I made the mistakes, so you don't have to. I will show you the mistakes. I want you to go out as my mentee who's starting a business to make new mistakes so that we are both learning. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's how I look at failure in terms of
No, wow. I mean, that's, like I said, it's a very great perspective how you look at it, And also, I like the fact that you mentioned the importance of learning, that, as you fail, you must remember that it's part of learning, because I think I've seen it somewhere where they've broken it down into first action in learning, the fail. So which means that you can, it's just your first attempt. You have many more attempts to do, And then also, I like also what I don't know if maybe Les Brown. So there's some piece of his that I've listened to. Les Brown?
Les Brown, no.
Les Brown. The one who spoke about I was hungry, like what you need to
yes,
do. Yeah, yeah,
okay,
that one. So he
yes,
said,
yes.
He said like every time you fail, it might land you on the ground, but just remember that if you can look up, you can get up, So I think if you look at it like that. So now that you also you spoke more about the importance of what you call this, of failure, of failing, right? I just want to ask you, what are the importance of learning? I mean, learning on its own is a journey. It's not something that just happens overnight, right? So let me just say, before we get to the importance of learning, can I just ask you to define what learning is and why it's so important for us to learn?
Okay. So learning for me is the absorption of information and data, right? So learning is understanding what the frameworks, processes, understanding stories, listening to stories, listening to people. Learning is taking information that people. So they always say, you know, as an entrepreneur, always listen and never be the one to talk a lot, right? Because from a learning perspective, you need to understand, you know, when you're solving a particular problem, there's always different avenues. So if I use this, attach this as an example, when I was a manager, right, I never listened. I always spoke what I knew, right? And that was always the one side. Then we didn't have that innovation to say all those different aspects, right? So that's the learning for me. So from that perspective, that's the definition of learning and absorbing. And for me, why learning is so crucial is that now, because I'm always open to learning, open to listening, reading, listening to the latest trends, going to speak to the CEOs in the industry because they're on the ground. Primary research for me and speaking to the guys is one of the key information from a learning perspective because they are on the ground. If you Google search, that's all secondary research. You know, sometimes they could be 5 years old and very outdated and stuff. So for me, and this is what I've picked up from KPMG, is that because I'm constantly learning and understanding, is that if I'm not familiar about a specific problem to solve, right? Now, if someone asks me a random question, and I do a lot of talks on Power FM, and I do a lot of talks on CNBC Africa, right?
Nice.
And if they throw a random question that I'm not familiar about, because of my learning, I can draw information together, put them in a concise way, and I can talk about that topic. So if you threw any random topic to me now, I would throw from my learning and education that I've got. I can put it together in a package and give it out. You know. So instead of going to meetings, I'll give you another example. Sometimes when I go to meetings, and I'm sitting outside the room before the meeting, 15 minutes, just to revise, I'll go into Google, I'll make a search of the topic that I'm going to discuss with the problems that I'm going to solve with my customer. And from all the knowledge that I got, and it makes like sort of, if I look at a keyword, you know, put a concise story together. You know, and then I can actually take that and you know, give it to my customers. And I think the more learning that you do and the more knowledge that you gain from talking, from reading and keeping updates with the latest trends, it just makes you so much of a better person to deal with from a business perspective, especially from entrepreneurship, because you need to know what the customer needs, what the customer wants, and that's how, yeah. So for me, that's my learning perspective in how I deal and manage with that.
Wow, you spoke about connection. I'm glad that I connected with you actually, because I mean, this piece of information that you're sharing, like I'm telling you, I don't think it's it's a piece of information that goes out for free, you know. But
Yes.
here you are, I'm giving it to us for free. Like I really, really do appreciate that, you know. And also just to go back to the point where you said you need to be the person who does the less talking. There's something I read that says that when you talk, you're actually repeating what you know, you know. So
Yes.
if you just keep quiet and listen, you will see that there's more to learn, you know. Like I like how you learn, you know. And also, you know, I like how you learn. And I can, like, from what you said, right, would it be correct for me to say that when you learn, you actually build on self-confidence? Because then, like you said, you're able to pull that information, you know. I mean, for you to pull that information, you have to be confident, isn't it? So, and get to be confident through learning, because as you learn, then you are keeping up with the ever-changing dynamics of the world, you know. So,
Absolutely.
the way you define learning is very amazing, and I really want to thank you for that. So, in terms of closing, any final thoughts? Like anything that I didn't ask that you would have loved for me to ask, or something that you've read, a book, or an idea that you came across, or something that you've implemented that you feel that, you know, it can help 1,000 people out there, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, just maybe just the learning component. I did have something in mind I wanted to share. Yeah. I lost track.
Yeah. No, I think it's gonna come as you talk. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think from Okay, so in closing, I think for me, I love this motto that I have, the slogan, inspire with success and guide with failures. Because and if you go back to the learning and being that confident person, right? Oh yes, now I remember what I wanted to share around that learning thing is that when I first started, I was first, although I was an extrovert, the personal issues always kept me to be reclusive. Like I didn't want to go out, but it's opening yourself. It's opening yourself to go out there. So what I used to do, just an example, I used to look at Meet. I don't know if you know that app Meetup or that.
I think I've heard of it before. I just didn't pay that much attention.
Yes.
Oh, the
So what
Google
I used
Meetup.
to do,
Is it the
no,
Google?
Meetup was more like it was a different app. So Google Meetup is the video conferencing. So this app was, you look for conferences, you look for events, something that's happening in your area or whatever. Right? So I used to look at the events, go on there, and I used to offer free services to talk at a present in IT, present in telecoms, or present in business, whatever the case may be. When I first started off, I used to take that opportunity to give free talks. And during those talks, I had to prepare a presentation. So what did I need for that presentation? I had to learn. I had to learn about that industry and that talk. And what helped with the talk was that it built my confidence, because when I talk, I'm out in public, I'm out in many people, 300 people that I'm presenting these talks to. So not only learning and putting the presentation together about a specific topic, I'm going out there and bettering my public speaking, so building that confidence. So that's how, from a learning perspective, that's actually, what I did to build my confidence, and that's true. So my first talk on CNBC Africa, I was so nervous. I actually had a small script. They sent me the topics pre-hand, and I wrote keywords down. So I had to look down, but not necessarily move my eye away from the camera. But now, from that day, that's what I learned. That learning that I've got from that first day made me so confident that they just call me, hey, you got 10 minutes to get to the studio. Can you come in and talk about this topic? And I walk in because of all the learnings that I did. Then going back to the closing, my motto I'd love to share with other people is that, as I mentioned this before, inspire with success and guide with failures, because it's so important to celebrate your wins, celebrate your accomplishments, celebrate your achievements, no matter how small it is. And I never used to do that. Now, because I celebrate my wins, I share it with social media, I get feedback, it releases an endorphins in your body, and it motivates you to say, hey, I'm going in the right direction. And then when you share and guide people with your failures, hey guys, I made this mistake. Don't do this with this certain problem that you're solving, but rather let's look at other ways to solve that, for that. And when you fail, also fail fast. Fail fast, don't think about it, don't be demotivated. Say, okay, we failed, what can we learn? Let's just move on. So that's what I would like to leave people with, especially in entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship, one, is it can be a very lonely game. But find that support. Find the support. It doesn't have to be lonely. Go out and get mentors. Speak to your family, speak to your friends. It doesn't have to be that lonely, transition. Because when I first started my business, I was never saw my friends, always in front of my PC, trying to solve things and becoming stressed. And you need to have that human way of doing things as well. So. If I could leave with that, that's one of the crucial things that I could do, add.
No, sorry, you did mention something very important here. So on the final thoughts here, right? So you did say that you've been going out, just doing presentations, and you've been offering the presentations. It's that on its own. It's one of it's one of those things where, like, you would say, okay, now tomorrow I'm gonna wake up and go to this church, maybe present my business idea, go to this school, go to this place, right? You wake up tomorrow, all of a sudden that energy and that mood, it's no longer there. Now you're feeling like,
Right.
oh, I'm not ready. What if I
Yeah.
just shake and no, I don't want to embarrass myself, you know? So the moment you started to do it, or you felt the need to do it, right? So what really pushed you to go ahead with it? Because I mean, a lot of people do have that idea, but they don't have the motive to go ahead with it.
Yes.
So what pushed you? What was on your mind? What drove you?
Yeah. So one, it's also when you're an entrepreneur, it's
Mm,
accountability,
mm,
right?
mm,
Be accountable.
mm,
Do what you what is the saying? Do, do what you say, or
mm.
say what you do. Say what you
Yeah, say what
do
you do.
and do,
Yeah, do
right.
yeah. Mm,
One of the most important traits of being a leader as well is being accountable.
mm,
You agree to something, go ahead and do it, you know?
mm,
So because I said I'm going to present at this, and the next day I'm feeling, oh no, you know, I don't think I can do it, is
mm,
that go ahead and do it. Whether, you know, it's a success or not a success,
mm,
you went, you were accountable, at least you
mm,
gave yourself that accountability, you know?
mm,
And then
mm,
you can always, so generally, a presentation that I did, you know, it didn't come out to fruition as I
mm,
would have liked it. But at the
mm,
end of the day, I learned from that. You know, I pushed myself, I built the resiliency to say that
mm,
I made myself accountable. I went
mm,
out and did it, and it's okay, you know?
mm,
So don't be too hard on yourself to say, okay, no, that you don't end up doing it, you know, because at
mm,
the end of the day, the people that are accommodating you to do that presentation or to go out and
mm,
do that gig, they also plan their day. They also, you know,
mm,
so
mm,
afford them that gratuity to say that,
mm,
hey, I'm grateful for you going out of your way to let me and be accountable. And
mm,
yeah, and then you also build that resiliency to say, okay, I wasn't in the mood, but actually I
mm,
went and did it. And
mm,
it was actually great. So some of the times I actually didn't want to end up doing something on that
mm,
specific day. Whether it's one day I didn't feel like going and teaching my class in karate, right? And the
mm,
martial arts.
mm,
But when I actually went and did it, I
mm.
enjoyed the session so much.
Nice.
That,
Mm,
so it boils down to accountability. And if you say something, do what you say and go out
mm,
and do it. Have that respect for the next person who gave you that opportunity to do it. You know,
mm,
so whether you're in a bad mood or whether you're not in that space,
mm,
sometimes at the end of the day, that space could change, you know, by actually
mm,
going and being accountable for that.
mm, mm. Don't let the mind limit you.
Exactly.
Keep on going, you know. But you know what? The information that you've shared with us, it's one of, like I said, it's one of those informations that you just don't get for free, you know. Most people they actually write books about them and
Yeah.
make money out of it, you know, that information. But for you to come, you know, within this this limited time that we have with so much to do, you know, it really means a lot to me. And honestly, I'll be lying if I say I'm not looking forward to a continuous relationship. I am actually, because I feel that there's a lot to learn from you, you know, and I am really gonna bother you, right? But speaking of
No,
getting in touch,
100%.
awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of getting in touch, right? Would you mind to share with our listeners where they can, reach out to you online?
Yes, I'm available on all social media. You can search for Mogen Naidoo, the good-looking businessman there. There's apparently a couple of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
One of my good
Mm,
friends who lives in Seattle in the United
mm,
States, his name is
mm.
Mogen Naidoo. I didn't
Oh,
think anybody else would have the same name as me.
yeah.
But
Mm,
yeah, I'm on Twitter, I'm on
mm,
LinkedIn. I think
mm,
LinkedIn would be the best place to get hold
mm,
of me
mm,
if you're looking at entrepreneurship.
mm,
Yeah, and all social media, I'm there. And even if you do a Google search on my
mm,
name again, you'll definitely pick up
mm,
yeah,
mm, mm.
all my details.
Mm. Or they can just look for what is it? Top best male 2022. Is it, am I saying it
Oh
right?
yes, I
Yeah, because
even
it's the
forgot
first
to see
line there.
this.
It's the first
Yeah,
line,
so
so they
I
can
didn't
just look up.
celebrate my achievement.
Yeah, you
Yeah, I
see.
didn't celebrate my achievement with you. I should have said
Yeah,
that. Yes.
you
So
should
I
have
was,
said.
if I could elaborate on that,
Mm,
I
mm,
was voted the best 365 Man Awards for entrepreneurship and leadership. Yeah, it's got my certificate for that by the Department of Social Development for my contributions to the industry in helping entrepreneurs and leadership and such. Yeah.
Oh, nice. This
I
is
also
amazing.
assist kids.
Sorry?
Also assist kids in school with career guidance.
Oh,
So
nice.
if people need to talk about, because I've also learned a lot. When you asked me the question, do you think IT was the right thing to choose at the time? So I did go through. It's like sometimes matric, you don't know what do I do.
Yeah.
We can assist and help with that. And right now also I'm in the space where and we go through these things. Is that what do I do now? Because now I'm sitting in a position where do I go and do my PhD now, or do I go back to corporate? And get that. So my personal career, get that executive leadership from a bigger budget, managing bigger teams, managing bigger resources, which corporates do have, and that I could. And then, or the other thing is, do I go out and do my PhD? And I'm looking at, for my PhD topic, I'm looking at the future of work and the future of skills in AI, artificial intelligence solution right now. So I want to look at how adaptable are we from a skills perspective? What do we do? What skills do we look for? And so that's my PhD. So I'm back at matric.
Nice.
So I feel like I'm back at matric. What do I do now? So, but I'm sure go with the flow, have that passion. I'm sure the answer will come to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're already there. Hey, I'm only starting with honors now, but I mean, you're already there. So which means you should be proud. You should keep on going. And also, if you need people to collect the data, feel free. You can contact me. I'll be happy to be part of it. Yeah, because I know that sometimes you have to send out these electronic questionnaires for people to answer, and then you draw up everything from there. Yeah, so I'm available. But really, thank you so much. I wish you were not even that far. UCT so far. Like I wish you're in Western Cape, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I wish
you
no,
I'm in Johannesburg. Yeah.
Oh, you're in Johannesburg. Oh,
yes.
Nice. I would like to actually go out for a cup of coffee, so we can speak some more, and maybe, because I feel like there's a lot that I can learn from you, not just me, but I feel also that our audience can learn as well, because like 100%. You said, you need to connect with people. So I feel that if I connect with you on a deeper scale, then yeah.
I'm really passionate about the youth. So
the youth,
even from high school, kids that you reach out to, where you're teaching, more than glad to help out and wherever I can, so.
Awesome. You see already there's some sort of a collaboration.
Exactly.
Yeah, but thank you so much. I'll keep in touch. Really, it means a lot. All right, thank you.
Thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, no problem.
All right, thank you so much for coming.
Okay, great stuff.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
As you know, we never cease to amaze you. Let's face it, the information that was shared by Mogen Naidoo is very crucial in terms of entrepreneurship and leadership. And if you'd really like to learn more from Mogen, please do get in touch with them. Do not waste any time because, there's a lot to learn from him. They say that the reason why we are not where we want to be is because we lack essential information that is going to push us to the next career move. Ladies and gentlemen, without wasting any time, please do not forget to like and subscribe so that you do not miss any episode that we share. And until then, stay tight.